We should talk about what we did this week a little bit.
Yeah, we should just a little bit of a story.
What are the specifics of this week that you'd like to speak about?
Well, we went through the entirety of...
Oh, you went to Canarsie.
We went to Canarsie.
And then some.
And then some.
Tilden as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we our route, can I do it just
Of course,
briefly?
yeah.
So we went from our house, which is in Bushwick, out through, hit a little bit of Bed-Stuy to get to Brownsville, to get to Canarsie.
Right.
Get into Canarsie Park, which is awesome. That park is so cool.
It's very good.
It's massive. It has like a hiking trail. It goes out to the water. There's people fishing. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And then because then it also has like a real park, like basketball courts and swings and things like that. We walk over the
Gil Hodges Bridge.
yes.
Oh, wow.
And
It's the drawbridge, which was really cool to see because it was like a video game in that you could see the bridge from pretty much every part of our walk. So it was like if you can see it, you can go there, and it'd be like 8 miles away, or then it would be right there, or then it'd be another 8 miles away, and it's
Right.
kind of a cool dominant landmark.
yeah. But before we get to the Gil Hodges Bridge, we walk over I think it's the Greenway that goes on the Belt Parkway,
yes.
right?
Yes.
And pass by Floyd Bennett Field. And then we get to the Gil Hodges Bridge, which takes us to Reese Beach and Fort Tilden.
Mm-hmm.
We walked.
Reese Beach. Did you sit on have a good time in Reese Beach? Were there people there?
There were people there
Were they
Monday
closed?
and Friday.
They
Were
weren't
they
closed.
closed?
Yeah.
Oh, closed.
At
oh,
Reese
yeah,
Beach,
yeah.
at Reese Beach they are.
Wait,
At Fort
did they
Tilden,
remove
it's a
the
nude
whole
beach.
thing? Is that because Reese Beach part of it is supposed to be nude, right?
I think it's the
Further to the right.
further to
Further
the.
to the
Is
right.
that
Oh.
east then that way or west?
I believe it's
At
west.
that point, I think it's west too. Oh yeah, because Long Island is east, and it's okay. So yeah, further west is a nude beach,
Right.
optional.
Yeah.
But then Reese Beach itself, is where there's usually there's a boardwalk, and there's usually some stores and restaurants
Yeah,
open
yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that area might still be topless optional or something, but
I think
people are usually wearing bathing suits.
Well, Reese Beach is historically a gay and queer beach. Yeah, and I remember there being a nude side. I wasn't too sure where it was.
Yeah, it might just
Yeah.
be slightly further
Just
west
slightly
of
further,
the
just,
boardwalk.
around the bushes
Yeah, just around
somewhere.
the corner.
Through the bushes.
Yeah, the boardwalk ends, but then it must resume at some point because one of the days
It goes
I
to
was...
Rockaway, right?
What's that?
It goes up to Rockaway.
Oh yeah, well yes it does.
Yeah,
I'm
that's going
talking
out
about
east.
I'm talking about going in the other direction towards
Yeah.
Breezy Point. I ended up going on a little bit of a hiking trail, and I found another section of boardwalk that I don't know how you would get to it without walking on the beach for a little bit.
Wow.
But we were avoiding walking on the sand because it's very difficult when you're walking that many miles to walk on the sand for any significant amount of time. So
Yeah.
So we
So we walked through Fort Tilden,
Yeah.
which, I've been out there a number of times, but there's a back area where there's a trail that goes out to these buildings that have been abandoned and have all sorts of graffiti on them.
Yeah.
There's also...
I've been there.
Have you been there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool, right?
It's really weird.
Yeah. And then have you also been up, you can go up some
Yeah.
wooden stairs on top of Battery Harris is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's it used to be a watchtower area during the war. And such a nice view.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we found that. And then, yeah, go ahead.
Well, we went to Breezy Point, which is one of the more compelling stories of the week.
Yeah.
Jesse, why don't you do the honors?
Okay. Yeah, so we had an interesting time at Breezy Point. Our route took us out all the way to the tip, which, have you ever been out to the tip of Breezy Point? Past west of Fort Tilden?
Just the tip.
Just the tip. Have you ever been to Just the Tip?
Have you been out there?
I think I've been out to the tip
Okay.
at some point. I remember because I went to those structures that you were speaking with the graffiti and all that kind of stuff, and I think that like I was with Matthew, and then there was like a lot of people on the hiking, and I wanted to like get away.
Okay.
So I feel like at some point I'll have to like. Apparently, I have very bad memory.
Well, it's hard to remember. I mean, we just did this last week, and we did it every day, you know?
Right.
So, and we like planned the route and actually saw where everything was. But those graffiti structures, I also I know I had been there maybe 10 years ago or something, but
Yeah.
I couldn't ever remember exactly where they were, and now I know right where they are.
Right.
But yeah, so Breezy Point is just west of Fort Tilden, and it's a co-op. So it's about 2 miles long,
Yeah.
all separate houses, but it's a co-op. So it's like a private community.
Yes.
But
I know
there's-
this place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's one main road that goes through it.
Yes.
The main road is a public road because because it is. And then also the end of the island is federal land. There's
Right.
a fisherman's beach, and
Mhm.
you can walk out to that. So on the first day, on Monday, our route had originally taken us all the way out, and then we were going to sort of like zigzag in back through the smaller streets.
Mhm.
As soon as we got there, we see these signs like private property, and so we thought, okay, we'll just walk out and back. We're not going to like walk through the smaller roads because clearly there's like people don't want us going in there. It seems very like closed off. So we were just walking out to the tip, and we were on the sidewalk and got maybe 10 minutes into the neighborhood,
Mhm.
and a public safety truck pulled up in front of us, and this older gentleman got out, and he was very polite, but he said, you know, do you know anyone, are you guests of someone in this community?
Mhm.
And we said, no, we're just taking a walk down to the beach. And he said, oh, okay, because this is private property. And we
Right.
were like, okay, that's fine. You know, we're just walking on the sidewalk. We'll just walk down to the beach.
Right.
And he said, no, you know, this side of the road is private property, so you can't be here. And we were like, well, you know, we're just walking to the beach. Is the sidewalk private property? And he said, yes. So ultimately he said, you can't walk on the sidewalk, but you can walk in the road. So we walked in the road for 2 miles down to the end of Breezy Point. We walked all the way out to the fisherman's beach, ate a sandwich, and then walked back and walked in the road back. And like, I was furious.
Yeah.
Not like, okay, public safety. And I said this to the guy too. I mean, I probably could have handled it a little bit better. I got mad. I was like, I think I was okay. But I did say to the guy, you know, I hear you. I hear what you're saying, but like, I
Right.
see that you're public safety,
Right.
and you're telling me to walk in the street.
Right.
Like, I don't know what's safe about that for the public. So, but whatever, we did it, and you know, we didn't want to get in trouble. We didn't want to piss anyone off. So like, we just did it. But I was angry, and so we rerouted then for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday to just not go into Breezy Point.
Right.
But like, it didn't sit well with me, because our whole, like, an intention for this project is to create community, to visit each of these neighborhoods for at least 5 days and
Right.
get like at least 5 days worth of experience from it. And I thought, you know, like, we can't really properly represent this neighborhood on just this one incident, right?
Right.
So on Thursday morning, I didn't walk with Mike. I was over at my studio, and I called up the co-op, and I spoke with 2 separate women, both who like didn't really seem like they wanted to talk to me. Like, they were like, well, are you looking for information to buy a home here? And I'm like, no, I just want to understand your rules,
Yeah.
because this thing happened to us, and it was weird and unsettling, and made me really unhappy, and we want to represent this fairly.
Right.
So ultimately, like, they gave me an email. I sent an email sharing what happened and just asking for more information, really. Like, is
Right.
this really the rule? And I got a call back from a man named Chris, who is the general manager of the Breezy Point Cooperative.
Right.
And he was a nice guy, and we talked for like half an hour about the history of Breezy Point and like what area was private, what area isn't.
Right.
He was very apologetic, said that never should have happened. It's still a little unclear. I do think that the sidewalks are part of their private property, but this public safety is not supposed to kick people off the sidewalk.
Right.
Because it is actually not safe to walk in the road. Everyone that we've spoken to since then agrees.
I think it's like that public safety person was probably so bored and finally saw an opportunity. It's like, look at these two young kids
Well, yeah.
walking all over the place.
Well, it actually, so I said bored as well because they had like I guess they had like a file, or maybe not a file, but at least notes on us. Like when he called me back, he was like, so, was it an older gentleman? Like he knew there was like notes on that incident on their end too.
Oh my God, he reported it?
Well, one of the residents had called and said that they saw us and had called public safety to come. Like it wasn't the public safety officer
Right.
that stopped us on his own,
Right.
but it was a resident that like saw us and thought that we looked out of place
Right.
and called public safety to come deal with us.
Right.
So yes, I also had the same thought of like, what would make someone do that? Is it like fear? Is it boredom? Is it like whatever? I mean, the conversation that I had with Chris, he said that because of COVID, a lot of people have been like walking just to get exercise and like coming into Breezy Point and walking around, and that people are all kind of like on edge.
Right.
Yeah, I don't feel super like I want to pass judgment because I still don't fully understand. But I can share the rest of our experience. Ultimately, we got like a private tour of on Friday. Because we had this long phone call, and then he said, I'd really like for you to come back. Like we're not terrible people. We're not. And I told him all my feelings, basically. I was
Right.
like, I told him all the things it made me think. I told him how, like, based on what's going on in the country right now and, like, everyone trying to, fight for equality and, like, be welcoming to each other and, like, how this just really didn't sit well.
Mm-hmm.
I told him how, like, being kicked off the sidewalk and told to walk into the street because of public or private property made me think, like, immediately, like, what's going on here? Like, why would they do that? What are they trying to hide? And
Mm-hmm.
he really, like, wanted to change my mind on that, I think, and was welcoming then and said, come stop by public safety when you get in, and, like, one of our officers will take you to our private lighthouse and 9/11 memorial, and he'll escort you, he'll show you around.
They have a private 9/11 memorial?
Well, the community apparently lost 85 people.
Oh,
So
okay. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
And you can see where the
How do they get
towers
in and
were.
out of the city as well? I'm sorry, that's like very
Yeah.
tangential.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no. I intended to ask, but did not. I don't think there's a ferry yet. But
Do they
there
just
could
drive?
be. They could drive.
I
They-
guess so, yeah. I mean, it's right near the bridge, so yeah. There might be a ferry that goes out there too. There is a ferry from the Rockaways, right?
Right. That's
Yeah.
like 2 hours though. Like,
Oh,
it's a commitment.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it must be driving.
It seems like driving would be the most common version for this community.
Mm.
Yeah. But yeah, ultimately, I mean, I'll just finish our little story here and then we can talk about it more. But ultimately, the public safety officer that met us and escorted us, his name was John. He was a very nice guy. He lives not in Breezy Point, but a neighboring town. He's lived there his whole life. His family, he said, was like one of the first families in that area.
Right.
And yeah, I'm glad that we, gave it another day and got a chance to, like, engage with them a little bit more. I still don't fully understand, like, exactly how the community works or, like, exactly why that happened or, like, what would happen if someone that, like, now they kind of know us. So, and like, I know that, you know, it's based on my past experiences and my level of privilege and understanding, that I was even able to make that phone call and say, like, hey, this happened to me, and like, I don't feel great about it, and even like give that energy to it.
Right.
So I don't know what would happen if someone else walked in and how that would go. What they say is that you shouldn't get kicked off the sidewalk. So anyone that wants to walk out to the tip of Breezy Point should be able to walk on the sidewalk of the main road. Don't venture into the neighborhood, but like straight out, straight back on the sidewalk should be fine. And yeah, I am glad that we got to have this opportunity to sort of chat with them about it, and even just like share the experience of being an outsider in this neighborhood and what that's like. Because I don't know how often people would like, I think a lot of times people might go in, have that happen, and be like, fuck Breezy Point, you know, and like just leave, and then never even tell them what that felt like.
Yeah. I feel that there are a lot of these kind of like secluded like little neighborhoods within New York City where you're like, what are those people doing here? You shouldn't be here.
Right.
This is my sidewalk. And I think it's I don't know. I think people are fearful, you know, for their future as well. And it's like, I feel like everything just feels like it's on like 11 right now. In terms of like sensitivity to things. It's kind of crazy.
For sure. And it doesn't help that it's a cooperative community already. So there already is this like, you have to be a member to live there.
Yeah.
So they're going to be extra vigilant.
Right.
In terms of, you know.
It's like Gramercy Park.
Yeah, well, we were actually, so after on Monday, we were trying to think, like, are there other, I'm sure we'll run into this kind of thing again in other areas of New York, but I can't really, like, Gramercy Park was one of the neighborhoods that I guess it's not a neighborhood, but one of the areas that I brought up too. I was like, that's the only place I can think that's like, you just can't go in.
You can't go into the park,
right?
No, unless you have a key.
Yeah.
And I think it's so funny, but whatever. Like,
yeah.
There's Bryant Park is closest. Well, no, Washington Square Park. No, not
Union
Washington Square. Union Square Park, and also
Irving.
Next to the Flatiron. What is that park?
Oh, Madison Square Park.
Madison Square Park. Yeah.
So yeah, we as we were leaving the memorial, we ended up getting into a conversation with John for 20, 30 minutes maybe. He's a former police officer.
Oh, wow.
His daughter is currently a police officer. And yeah, we just started in with term limits for politicians, and it just kept rolling into, you know, talking about the police right now and his opinions on it. And basically, it was a very civil conversation. He had the opinions that you would expect a police officer to have.
Yes.
But not the blind support of the police.
Yeah.
That I think has been currently portrayed as the uniform response of police, you know?
Yeah, it was really, really nice talking with him. Yeah, like, because like Mike, you just said, I mean, it was clear that he was very thoughtful and considerate, and like of sort of, I'm gonna say both sides, but of just like other perspectives too.
Right.
Which I feel like is just, it's not represented, you know, like the loudest voices are what we see, I think, in media. And so, you know, you see the like police commissioner speak,
right,
and he doesn't seem like he takes on the perspective of other people. It's just like,
there's no remorse.
Power through, and like, this is what we are. And it's like this one sort of like one track thinking, and
right,
like, it's almost like a negotiation where it's like some people are only saying one thing that's like all on one side. Some people are only saying one thing that's all the way on the other side. But then like actually having human to human conversation feels really good, because even though you might not agree on everything,
Right.
you can actually get into some of the nuances and like hear each other as people and not just as like representation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's hard for people to also perceive sort of like complete structural reform.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that was kind of the thing. We had the thing that was the most revealing to me, or the most that I got out of it, was we were talking about, or I was trying to pose a question to him about what if some of the responsibilities that are currently on the police that frankly shouldn't be on the police because it's an overburdened system,
Right.
were put onto other areas. And we started talking about emotionally disturbed instances,
Right.
you know, and he was respectful, and he said, you know, well, you know, what can you imagine sending a social worker out to a situation that's potentially violent? And it struck me as really interesting, because I think most of us, and I think in that moment that the three of us had an understanding of what a social worker, like the shorthand for social worker.
Right.
And you think of somebody that's overworked behind a desk with a clipboard, you know, like not prepared to deal with a situation where it would be violent.
Isn't Jessie Lesser's mom a social worker?
Oh, I think she works in schools
She also
in a
is social
similar
worker.
capacity.
Yeah,
I
I'm
think.
sorry to.
We'd
Yeah.
have to ask
Yeah.
to confirm, but
So the idea is that we have this shorthand for what we think a social worker is in that situation.
Yeah.
And I'm not necessarily looking to somebody whose job is law enforcement to be thinking of more creative ways to think about things.
Mm-hmm.
But from my perspective, if we were to have somebody that's, trained to handle this situation, it wouldn't look like what we currently imagine, you
Right.
know? And I think about, I just started getting into this idea with Jesse while we were walking, but like, you think about a police officer and they are blue, and you know, like they have a uniform and they have an idea, and there's also a cultural understanding of what that represents, and that's a cultural understanding that can be very frightening to somebody that might be cognitively impaired or emotionally disturbed or in any way a compromised situation.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to start building up in a society where, we use gold again, but it could be any color, but you know, there's people that come in gold, and culturally it's shorthand to understood that they are compassionate, caring people.
Right.
They're not here to punish you.
Yeah.
They don't have weapons. They're not here to kill you. They're here to help you while you're feeling distress.
Right.
And we start developing shorthands that way, and that is in some respects somebody that's trained like a social worker.
Right.
But it is not somebody that's an office worker that wouldn't know how to deal with somebody that's, you know, violent. But
Yeah.
also, like, you know, I've spent enough time in the nursing home, like, I know how to deal with people that are violent.
Right.
Like, you know,
Yes.
certainly they're not going to overpower me, but like, you know, when somebody is distressed, and it doesn't have to involve threatening them with force to calm them down.
Right.
And in fact, it probably won't most of the time, you know?
Mhm.
So, yeah, that was what was compelling to me when talking to him about it. Just thinking that, like, if we start thinking up creative ways to start dealing with these things, sure, there'll be criticism and there'll be people that are haters and naysayers, but like, that's the type of stuff that we need to like start thinking about how we rebuild these structures, you know?
I was talking to Laura on Thursday and was thinking about this analogy that I'm still sort of like trying to put together better. But I feel like if you have like a pimple, right? The remedy for the pimple is not necessarily like lathering it with like Proactive or like trying to constantly attack or like remove like the surface of your face, right? It's like, it's a signal that there is something wrong intrinsically within your system. So you actually have to sort of like think about what is in your diet and your body that actually needs to change, not just like what's on the surface. And I think that when they see violence is something that is just so much on the surface, and so they just like, you know, lather it with like police people because that's like the immediate like thing, right?
right.
And yesterday, I was talking to my friend Ariane about just sort of like when we think about sort of developmental income and developmental finance and like the sustainable development goals, especially with an approach to sort of like development within Africa, but also kind of even thinking about sort of structural institutional change here, a lot of the reaction is kind of like putting a Band-Aid on a festering wound, right? Like it's like really it's an internal bleeding. There are far more issues in it, and I think that a lot of what we do are these sort of like aesthetic, cosmetic, solutions, right? So, and it's never anything that like requires extra work, because nobody wants to do extra work, right?
Yeah, it's
like,
all these like quick fixes. Which is, I mean, even in you're bringing up these like medical things, we do that with our bodies as well. Like we love to take prescription medicine instead of changing and working for a long period of time to actually fix the root of the problem. We love to just like take something that will make it feel better right away.
I mean, you do any cosmetic surgery, there's always going to be some sort of level of scarring or something that's going to happen to you that will remain with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and I'm hopeful that when we talk about what the protests' outcomes will be in the immediate and long-term future, that there are proposals and ideas that are revolutionary in that way. I mean, I think the short-term defunding of the police it makes sense and like has been moving forward. It's scary because money is so fungible and easy to manipulate to make it look like things are happening when they're not. But and I mean, this is the type of thing I'm not necessarily espousing for this, but like when you talk about something like a universal basic income and like how that's come around over the past 6 months to a year, it's like this is a novel concept. Somebody is proposing something that hasn't been seen before in this country. And like those are the types of things I would really like to see when it comes to race moving forward, where it's like here's an actual system that I would like to see implemented into the larger framework of what we do. And like see if we can run with it with all this momentum we have right now,
Yeah.
But we'll see.
Yeah.
So that was Breezy Point.
That was Breezy Point.
So Breezy Point. Wow, really hitting the hot topic issues.
Yeah. But yes. So that was our trip to Breezy Point, and then and then from there, if we're going back to the route, we walk back through Fort Tilden, back through Reese Beach. We have to cut up off the beach to get back to the main road to get to the Rockaways.
Neponset, and that was the area, and then down into like Rockaway proper. Then on the boardwalk up until the mid-90s, at which point we cut back into the city part, walk over the Broad Channel Bridge, and then we're in Broad Channel. And depending on the day, we either went up to the Jamaica Bay Preserve or we just took the train home.
Yeah. Have you ever been to the Jamaica Bay Wildlife Refuge?
No, I haven't.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. It's like, it's just one of those spots in the city where you get into it and like 5 minutes in, you forget that you're in the city.
But would this count as a multi-borough like walk?
This is a 2-borough.
Yeah, this one was Brooklyn, Queens. Beaches of Brooklyn and Queens by borough. Yeah.
And so it's turtle egg laying season right now.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
so
we saw a lot of turtles.
Yeah.
New York is so fascinating.
Yeah.
It's got everything.
I know, and it also has a huge bird habitat in Jamaica Bay.
Wow.
Our friend Tim. Our friend Tim, you know Tim.
Tim, yeah,
but not all of you might know Tim. He told us about, what was it called, the black ibis?
The American ibis, which he basically gave it to us.
You guys call it ibis?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Do you?
Ibis.
Ibis.
Yeah. It might be the ibis. We might be Americanizing it.
I don't know.
or just non-bird watcher.
American ibis. I think maybe it's ibis. I don't know.
It's probably
it could
both.
be either.
Probably both.
Anyway, yeah, so he gave it to us basically like a Pokemon challenge because it's migrating right now. It's not here all year.
Okay.
And it's to see if he could find it. And so, yeah, after a few days, we managed to find it. So that was fun.
You found it?
Yes, we did. Took
Wow.
some pictures, got some confirmation from Tim. So that was good. 4 days of the 5, we went in one direction that took us through Canarsie first and then Jamaica Bay at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
then one day I took the train down first and did it reverse. And that day I happened to see a lot of birders,
Yeah.
which is a very unique community to run across.
Right.
You know, very early in the morning, they're all geared up. They've got their big cameras.
Yeah.
They're hiding out in little shacks. It's very clandestine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
there's like blinds in
Yeah.
Jamaica Bay set up, like wooden structures to like hide to look for the birds.
Wow.
Which
Yeah.
is cool. But
And
yeah, then that day Mike was alone. I didn't walk with Mike that day.
Yeah, it was interesting.
All alone with all the birders.
Yeah.
There's like actually surprisingly a lot of birders.
Yeah.
I mean, also like recently in the news, the guy in Central Park who was part of the Audubon Society.
Yeah.
And that lady who called the police, tried to call the police.
Oh,
it was also he was also a birder.
Yeah,
He was
yeah.
also a birder, yeah.
It's really on trend right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I don't know, is there I'm starting to be conscious of time. So, is there anything else we want to cover in the walk? I mean, today it was our first week walking in the rain, so that and like we've somehow miraculously avoided rain of any consequence on all of our previous walking trips.
Mm-hmm.
So it had taken basically like 25 plus days of walking since we've finally had rain to deal with.
Wow.
And that was interesting.
I mean, you'd rather be dry, but at
Yeah.
least you're alive.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was kind of like fine. I mean, we have gear.
Yeah.
We have raincoats and rain pants and rain shoes and
It felt to be on the beach while it was raining is a little
It's
bit
lovely.
more dicier because well, no, it is lovely because it's cooling.
It's so
It's nice
it's
and
such an
cool.
emotional moment. It's like, oh
Yeah.
my god. It's like, Elliot Smith, come on, come through. Like,
Totally.
Sort of situation.
Well, because in the summer it's thunderstorms every time.
Oh my
So
God.
and we're walking on bridges and it's like, is there going to be thunder or,
Yeah.
lightning coming right
and
now?
it changes so quickly too, and like you can see the clouds and you can see so far out.
Right.
You know, so you're like, well, how far away is that? You know,
Yeah.
like
Right.
that cloud looks ominous, but like, will it be here in 45 minutes or will it be here in like 5 hours? We
right.
don't know.
Like yesterday was crazy. It
Yeah.
was like, oh, it's you expecting it to rain, but it doesn't
All
rain.
day.
Yeah,
it
all
never
day we
did.
thought it would rain
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
it didn't.
And
until
Monday,
after.
we got home before it rained, but apparently it hailed.
It did.
Yeah, yeah,
It was insane.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so there was this rest station around Fort Tilden that had some porta potties set up in lieu of having the bathrooms that normally would be operating if not for the pandemic.
That's not a really fun place if there's a thunderstorm to be like.
Well,
Well, no, I
the
wouldn't
next
think
day
so because
I got back there and they had been pushed over,
like
by
blown
the
over
storm.
by the
Oh,
storm.
okay.
And then
Yeah.
John, the public safety officer, was telling us that he was watching the storm come in.
Right.
And he saw a catamaran get blown 60 feet into the air and just land a foot away from where his car was. Like, apparently it was nuts. I'm glad that we got home early.
Yeah, I'm
that
glad we
day,
weren't walking in that.
Wow,
Yeah.
you would have been blown away.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It
We
would
haven't
be
built
like-
up the muscles yet.
No, Jesse.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, good thing we went early that
Yeah.
day.
Right.
good.
Especially you're wearing like the coat thing, so you're like practically just a kite.
Like a flying squirrel.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be really funny if she actually like took to it like a duck to water and just sort of like like just started like a squirrel, like
Yeah.
those like things.
Or like Rico and Just Cause.
Yeah.
Just all of a sudden,
It's
I
my
can't play the
wingsuit.
game, but I can do it in
Yeah.
real life.
Yeah, oh my
Right.
gosh.
Okay.
Yeah, we should
Yay.
wrap
Well,
this up
yeah.
now that we've
There's a lot to edit.
spoken
so
about everything.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you
Yeah.
for having me. This was really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe we can do it again at some point.
Sure.
Yeah.
I'm always around.
Yeah.
All right. And thank you all so much for taking the time to listen and watch. You can do the subscribing through YouTube. We also have the podcast episodes you can download through Podbean or listen to on Spotify or Apple Music. We have all sorts of ways to follow us. So please do so if you haven't before. And yeah.
Yeah, thanks for watching.
Take care for now.
Bye.
Bye.